It was a town that had lost everything. The quiet streets, hidden in the mist, seemed to remember a time when people still dared to look each other in the eye. But now every house seemed to shrink in fear, dreading what lurked in the shadows. Jack Grayson was a private detective, not the kind you read about in cheap novels, but the kind who drank strong coffee, wore a trench coat slashed by time and bullets, and could spot a lie from the slightest tremble in a voice. One day, he got hired to investigate a string of gruesome murders. Sleepless nights, empty bottles, and a dozen half-crazed theories led him to a single conclusion: the killer was someone, or something, capable of slipping into places no human should be able to. Someone who could bend their body, shrink themselves, and slide through the tiniest cracks. It wasn't human. The night was always his ally. Jack stood at the corner of the street, the cigarette smoke stinging his eyes. Nobody notices a simple guy, lost in a city like a ghost. They think they can hide from fear by closing their curtains and locking their doors. Yeah, right. He'll squeeze in anywhere, like a snake, without a sound. Do you even hear yourself, Jack? He muttered aloud, shaking his head, trying to shove the thoughts crawling into his mind back into the dark. His voice had grown hoarse from exhaustion, not just physical but mental. It always felt like someone was watching him. Deep in his skull, a cold fear settled in, creeping through his consciousness like the killer himself. Every time Grayson closed his eyes, he saw narrow gaps in the walls, ready to swallow him whole. When the cops threw in the towel, Jack knew the job was his. He'd heard the local stories, the terror in their eyes when they described how the bodies were found without any sign of forced entry. Every door locked, every window shut. Not a witness in sight, no signs of a break-in. But he knew better. He knew that thing could get in anywhere. Bending its body like it was made of shadow, it could slip through keyholes, vents, even cracks in the walls. "I'll be damned if this thing gets me," he muttered under his breath, taking the last steps down the street to the house of the latest victim. His fingers nervously gripped the handle of his gun. The flickering streetlights only added more shadows, sending a chill down his spine. Jack knew his time had come. The thing was after him now. His thoughts kept circling back to the terrified witnesses. He's everywhere. As soon as I tried to run, I could feel his breath behind me, but I couldn't see him. God damn it. Focus, Jack. His own voice cut through the silence. He stood at the door but hesitated to go inside. But as soon as his fingers touched the door handle, a cold wave of dread washed over him. Looking down, he noticed something strange. There was a thin gap between the door and the floor. Nothing unusual, but it moved. No, not moved, breathed. The crack itself seemed to be alive, calling to him, waiting for him to take a step. Jesus, he exhaled, stepping back. One step. Another. The crack was widening, and Jack realized this wasn't just a crack. It was a mouth. A mouth of the thing that had already started devouring him. He ran. In that moment, his world narrowed into a dark hallway, filled with shadows. Each step echoed his terror. He knew there was no escape. This was more than just a creature, it was fear itself. When he stopped at a dead end, gasping for air, his laughter broke the silence. He looked up at the ceiling, arms spread wide. So that's it, huh? No way out, just like in the movies. His voice shook, but it was laughter, not tears. He knew it was the end. And as he closed his eyes, he felt something cold and unnaturally flexible wrapping around him from all sides.
When the cops found him, the room was empty, the doors locked, the windows untouched. All that was left was a thin sliver of light on the floor, seeping through a crack that shouldn't have been there.